Back in action with Duke basketball a little bit later tonight. They've got an exhibition against UCF. We're back, baby.
Hi, everybody. Dick Vitale. Hey, make sure you listen, man, to Locked On Blue Devils with J.J. Jackson. He's awesome, baby.
You are Locked On Blue Devils, your daily podcast on the Duke Blue Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Locked On Blue Devils podcast. My name is JJ Jackson. Today is Tuesday, October 21st, 2025. This is Locked On Blue Devils. We are your daily one-stop shop for everything going on inside the life of Duke athletics. Our podcast is free and available for you wherever it is that you get your podcast. Be sure to follow us wherever it is for free. Leave us a 5-star rating and written review, particularly there on the Apple Podcast platform, as your support means so much to us. On today's show, Duke basketball plays a little bit later tonight. Their first exhibition game of the season. It's the Brotherhood run as Johnny Dawkins, the head coach of UCF, brings the Knights inside Cameron Indoor Stadium. We'll see Duke play together for the first time in this 2025-2026 season. A commitment set to happen a little bit later today. Big visitors on campus for Duke basketball. And oh yeah, by the way, we'll talk a little football at the end. All of this will be with our pal Kevin Connelly, the Believe in Duke Football podcast host and a part of Ball Durham. If you haven't done so already, please be sure to follow and subscribe to Locked On Blue Devils on YouTube. Share this video with your friends, comment down below, and let us know if you are an everydayer. So without further ado, we bring him on into the program. Our good friend Kevin Connelly's here with us. Kevin, I hope you're doing well. Great feeling knowing that a little bit later we will see this Duke basketball team play against somebody that's not teammates. It's not blue-white. It's not a practice setting. Another school's going to be in the gym, and we're going to get to watch it.
Yeah, it feels like a lot of teams have already had an exhibition game or two under their belts over the past weekend or a secret scrimmage. We haven't had anything with this team yet, so finally getting to watch Duke basketball on a Tuesday night should be a lot of fun.
So getting set for the Brotherhood run with Johnny Dawkins bringing his team back to face Duke. We saw UCF several seasons ago when Zion and RJ and Cam Reddish and that squad went up against them in the NCAA tournament. Clearly, both sides have totally different rosters, but it's so special to see another member of the Brotherhood as a head coach. Johnny Dawkins has meant so much to this program, getting a chance to bring his club back. And it is a high major opponent, right? This isn't one of those traditionals Division II, Division III opponents that you play an exhibition against.
No, and I think that's good. I do caution people to really read into these exhibitions, although that's what we're going to do, right? We're going to watch this game, and then we're going to talk the next day about it and break down what we liked, what we didn't like, who looked good, who didn't look good, and so on and so forth. But it's certainly cool that, this is almost a warm-up game to the warm-up game, right? You're really looking forward on Sunday night to seeing this team play against Tennessee, because Tennessee obviously projected to be a really good team this year, and UCF not so much. They were picked 14th out of 16 spots in the Big 12. So this is not a really, really solid UCF team, but certainly will be a nice look just to see Duke get out there against somebody else and play some ball.
Yeah, to your point, a warm-up to the warm-up to the warm-up, the actual game that Duke will play against Texas to open up the season on Tuesday, November 4th, there in Charlotte. So UCF today, then taking on Tennessee on Sunday, and then before you know it, a week later, Duke will be in action taking on the Texas Longhorns to start their 2025-2026 season. And when you start with a big-time opponent like Texas on the schedule, in some ways, Kevin, I like these exhibition games against high major opponents because it's going to be a little bit of an equivalent kind of shift in the level of talent that you're playing. I've already once today mentioned the Zion Williamson team for Duke because they took on UCF in the NCAA tournament. That was the squad that also played a high major opponent in the very first game of the season when Duke knocked off Kentucky in a really, really big fashion. With that being said, Kevin, you think about that team in particular, go back to their exhibition schedule. I found this last week and just can't get over it. That year in exhibition play, Duke played Virginia Union 106-64 was the final score in that one. And then they had an exhibition against something called Ferris State in which Duke won 48. I feel a little bit better warming up with power level opponents like UCF and Tennessee, with all due respect to Ferris State.
Well, JJ, don't get me wrong. I think we're in a different place in college basketball when it comes to exhibitions because you don't have it in front of you. I don't have it in front of me either. But what were the secret scrimmages like for that team? Remember many years ago, was really only a couple of years where you had those secret scrimmages.
Yeah.
And these exhibition games really came about as charity exhibitions. It was to raise money for COVID or hurricane relief, natural disasters, cancer, all these things. And the first couple of programs that did it, it's really hooked on over the past couple of years. And now it seems like everybody in the country, if you're a high major, is most likely playing a high major in at least one, maybe two exhibitions. And I think that's great. I think it's obviously a much better way to get you prepared for the regular season in opening against Texas. Even if you're opening up against in a bye game, playing UCF and Tennessee prepares you more when you eventually get to a high major than a Ferris State or Virginia Union. Even if you lose, I mean, we've seen a couple of teams lose already in their exhibitions. I know Xavier comes to mind. They lost at home to Murray State. I know a secret scrimmage score has been going around the internet of Ole Miss beating Houston. So, like, pump the brakes. Don't get carried away on the final score. These games don't count on their record, but it's a much better preparation tool than playing some of those D2 and D3 schools.
So we'll see Duke take on UCF a little bit later tonight inside Cameron Indoor. We'll see officially kind of what starting five John Shire chooses to put out there. And again, this can obviously change before Sunday's game against Tennessee and before the real season gets open for Duke basketball. But it's going to be fun to watch how this plays out, to watch what the rotation in particular looks like for Duke. When you think about that first five, many people expecting it to be the likes of Caleb Foster and Isaiah Evans in your backcourt, a front court made up of Cameron Boozer and Malik Brown, and then the million-dollar question that we're all asking, Dame Sarr, Nick Kamenia, who's going to be out there?
Well, I would honestly switch one thing up already. I'd put Pat Gongba in over Malik Brown.
Did I say Malik Brown? I totally meant to say Pat Gongba. That's on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But your question of Sarr and Kamenia, I would go Sarr. I think that's the way it's just trending right now. So I think you have those four plus Dame Sarr. But would I be surprised in one of the two games if the starters are changed? Probably not. I would let me say this. I wouldn't be surprised whomever starts against UCF. I just wouldn't be. Now, if it is Foster, Evans, Sarr, Boozer, Gongba, and then those five don't start against Tennessee, then I'd be a little surprised. Regardless if somebody struggles, if somebody plays well, if somebody else off the bench plays really well. Because even going back to last year and really John Shire's tenure as a Duke head coach, starting five doesn't change much barring injury. He kind of sticks with guys.
Great point, yeah.
He kind of sticks with guys. Now, yes, we saw Caleb Foster go from a starter to the bench about a month in the season last year. But other than that, aside from injury, his starting fives have not really changed over the last 3 years, at least off the top of my head. I really can't remember him mixing and matching different starters. Even when you're playing a team that's a little bit smaller or a team that's a little bit bigger, he normally sticks with the five that he always runs out there.
Yeah, Dame Sarr is someone that I'm excited to see play against other competition, to see him continue to get more comfortable with this American college game and see what these freshmen look like as well for Duke. I mean, really high expectations for the Blue Devils going into the season. I'm excited that they will be in action tonight in front of some pretty big visitors set to be inside Cameron Indoor for the matchup. And some recruiting news could be heading our way a little bit later today. We'll talk about that in just a moment when Locked On Blue Devils continues. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch. Let's be honest, most of us can't even name all of our financial accounts, let alone what they're worth. Between 401ks, savings, and investments, it's easy to lose track, and that can mean leaving money on the table. That's why I started using Monarch, an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy to use interface on your laptop or your phone. It's helped me organize all my accounts, track my spending, and get a better handle on my investments without having to touch a spreadsheet. I love that I can review everything with everyone in my life when I'm going over my financials to be able to make better financial decisions. Monarch's visual dashboard and smart tools make it so much easier to understand where my money's going and how to make it work harder for me. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarch.com for 50% off the first year. That's monarch.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Monarch Money is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. The show today is also brought to you by our friends over at Game Time. That's right. Game Time is the absolute best place to get involved when you are looking for tickets. Actually, getting tickets, though, can feel more like a battle than the game itself. Endless waiting queues, hidden fees, prices jumping at checkout, all that and more just aren't fun. That's why I use Game Time, the app that gives the advantage back to the fans. The easiest way to score last-minute tickets at the best prices with no surprise fees. What you see is what you pay. The app makes it super simple. I saw amazing deals. I'm talking about your favorite college football games for as low as $25. So take the guesswork out of buying college football tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONCollege, LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Game Time today, a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. All right, we move forward here on the show today. Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham is here hanging out with me. Duke basketball plays UCF tonight inside Cameron Indoor in the Brotherhood Run exhibition, and it's an official visit for Deron Rippey Jr., one of the top point guards and guards in the entire country, the number 16 overall player according to 247 Sports. He's got 9 official visits scheduled. It was 11 at one point. Now it's down to 9. He's already completed 6 of them with 3 to go, and today begins the Duke visit for Rippey Jr. This seems like a player that Duke is really interested in adding to the squad, Kevin.
JJ, I've said this for a long time. This is going to be a long recruitment. You mentioned the official visits was from 11 now down to 9. He's a player that's open to everything. He's open to hearing everybody's pitch and getting the most out of this recruitment. I certainly do think Duke is in a good spot, and I think Duke thinks they're in a good spot. But this is going to be a wild, wild recruitment, just in my opinion. And I think you're starting to see that already just with the number of visits that he's going to take.
Yeah, I feel like, it's great this time of year as before the high school seasons really get up and going when you've got exhibition games like this. This is a great benefit that Cameron's going to be packed. It's going to be the first opportunity for fans to be there inside the building with another team in action. So you'll really get a sense of what game day kind of looks like. Not that that's the biggest swayer in decisions these days for college basketball kids. We get the money element that's in place, but it really feels like this is a great environment to win a kid over.
Yeah, I mean, Cameron's not going to be at full roar. I do think it'll be sold out. It'll be a nice crowd, but it's not going to be like it will be on December 2nd against Florida. It's not going to be that type of atmosphere, but it's certainly good to get on campus. You see the gym, you see the facilities, you see the team, you see the coaches, you see a game. I'm sure you're going to see a practice or two as well. So it's just all about getting to know the area, know the team, know the players. But as you mentioned, a lot of these decisions do come down to the dollars and cents.
Yeah. So with that being said, he's on a visit today. Also happening today, we've got a decision set to be made at 4:30 p.m. Eastern time on the CBS Sports College Basketball YouTube channel. Bryson Howard is going to be making his final decision. All of a sudden, he's the number 12 player in the entire country, according to 247 Sports, a 5-star by every outlet and service out there, son of Josh Howard, who, of course, played in the NBA, played at Wake Forest. His son, Bryson, set to make his decision. A lefty on the wing. What type of player is this, and how do you think Duke feels right now going into decision day, Kevin?
I mean, I think they feel really good. I think you started to see things last night that should make them feel really good because typically when you're 12 to 24 hours out of some of these announcements, you see all these quote unquote recruiting insiders placing their crystal balls. Once the player lets the coach know where he's going and some of the other coaches that were recruiting him. It's kind of funny because, all of a sudden the season's here and we're talking about recruiting and next year's team and the years beyond. It's funny that, what was it? A year and a half ago, Jon Scheyer's kind of saying, we're probably going to shy away from these big freshman classes, focus on retention, focus on the portal. And now all of a sudden for 2026, you look up and you do some inference and educated guesses. We know how good of a spot it seems like they're in with Jordan Smith and a couple of other guys visiting. And now Howard seems like he's going to commit. Deron Rippey, is Duke really a front runner for him? And all of a sudden you could find yourself with a 4, 5, 6-man recruiting class again for 2026. So it's kind of funny how this has worked out. And it's kind of been the case over the past couple of years since Jon Scheyer has been the head coach that they've had these really big freshman classes every single year.
Yeah, and look, if it's working, I guess you want to continue to do it, but you're right, it is odd, funny, whatever you want to call it, that feels like we were going to sway away from this, and that's not the case, as it looks like we're set for another really big recruiting class. And you've got a good point, man. Throughout the summer, you and I are looking for things to talk about in the world of Duke basketball, making it happen, but as Peach Jam and all the big EYBL and AAU events are playing out, man, I would have loved a commitment there because we just kept asking. We had all these national recruiting experts out talking about just the shift in high school basketball as a whole, that it wouldn't be until later in the fall when you get closer to the start of high school basketball season that players start to make their college commitments.
Yeah, because they love the process in the summer too, right? You have a good tournament and what are the EYBL circuits, and all of a sudden you have a Jon Scheyer calling you, you have a John Calipari calling you, but you want to get the decision off your mind when your high school season is coming around. So that's why you're seeing a lot of these guys starting to set up announcement dates and wind down their recruitment.
So we've got Rippey Jr. at the exhibition today. Bryson Howard will make his decision a little bit later this afternoon. 3 schools are still in the mix, and Duke feels to be in a really good spot, possibly landing his commitment a little bit later. At Countdown to Craziness, Duke had Jordan Smith Jr. and Cam Williams, 5-star players on campus for that one. They were sitting there right next to Jason Tatum. Pretty big swing there for Duke. And then over this past weekend, Max Meyer out of IMG Academy, the Canadian 7-foot prospect, was there at Duke. He was with this year's current basketball team at the football game on Saturday when Duke took on Georgia Tech. And then Seyon Keita from FC Barcelona, the international prospect, he had already been on a visit to Duke. It feels as though reports are out there he's wanting to come back stateside and take another visit to the Blue Devils. Seems as though as you start to put this class together, all the positions are starting to mix well once again, which is something Jon Scheyer is typically really good at doing, Kevin, putting together an entire recruiting class that fills out each position.
Well, yeah, and I think the biggest thing that we've seen is position versatility, right? Look at even this year's roster. A guy like Dame Sarr and Isaiah Evans, who's a sophomore, and Nick Kamenia, they can all do a little bit of the same things, but they're very different players. So I think that's another big thing, is having that depth, having that insurance, whoever your first 5, that you have other guys on the bench that can come off the bench, I should say, and be really productive players. So I think that's been a staple that Jon Scheyer has really developed, especially from his first season on, is that depth and having multiple guys who he can trust out on the court.
Depth and size, Kevin. The tallest teams in America for a reason, and I'm mentioning Max Meyer just on campus. These are 7-footers that you're still trying to get into the fold. You go Mark Williams to Derek Lively to Kaman Malawach. That clearly has been a model that has worked over the past few years for Duke. I think that's absolutely in the college game the type of player the Blue Devils should continue to want to recruit as well. You agree?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a team that consistently goes out and tries to get the best players or the best talent, regardless of high school transfer, as long as they fit the culture and fit the program. But yeah, I absolutely think that's been a key for Jon Scheyer in his tenure at Duke.
All right, so exciting stuff for basketball. Again, excited to see this team take on UCF a little bit later tonight. We'll see what recruiting decisions are made in favor or against the Blue Devils a little bit later. Also, football in full swing as We've now played 7 total games on the season, and Duke suffered an incredibly frustrating loss over the weekend against Georgia Tech. We'll dive into that here in a moment. Locked On Blue Devils here today is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel, as the NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. In the NFL, really fun Monday Night Football games last night between the Lions and the Buccaneers, and then you had the Texans and the Seahawks, and we were able to follow it all with our friends over at FanDuel. I was able to build parlays, player props going, and even following the live lines during those games. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. So what are you waiting for? Just visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. FanDuel is a proud sponsor of Locked On Blue Devils. The aforementioned Kevin Connelly is here with me today on the program. Now talk Duke football as Duke falls 27-18 against Georgia Tech. Blue Devils now 3-1 in ACC play. And I can't find a better word than frustrating to describe Duke's performance in this game against Georgia Tech, Kevin. I don't know if you're able to, but just frustrating is what continuously comes to mind when I think about it.
Yeah, there are a couple words. Frustrating is certainly one of them. Disappointing is obviously another. I said it on my podcast, like I couldn't sit there on Saturday night, Sunday morning and tell you Duke was the better team because they weren't. But and the loss wasn't certainly like the first 2 losses of the season against Illinois and against Tulane, because in those games, and I said it, the team wasn't prepared to play. They were outclassed every facet of the game on offense, defense, special teams, and coaching. This team was ready to play on Saturday against Georgia Tech. Like, they came out, they executed the game plan. I thought the defense played phenomenally well and eventually got worn down in the second half. And I said, I'm not putting this game on the defense, like on that back-breaking drive where Georgia Tech ended up going up 10. Like, I'm not putting that on them. But I'm not putting on the coaching staff, because I think the coaching staff came up with a great game plan. The offense moved the ball for the most part. The defense, like I said, for 3.5 quarters were great. Sometimes it comes down to you have to blame the players, because you have to go out there and execute. And, you fumble a read option or whatever you want to call it at the mesh point that gets picked up and run back for a touchdown. You bobble a snap on a field goal.
That was bad.
Yeah. You miss another field goal in the fourth quarter. Yeah, man. It was like
you can't punch it in from the 1-yard line.
Yeah, and then you're going for it on 4th and 1, and you have too many men on the field. That's what I will blame the coaching staff for, when they had 12 guys on the field, you had the 5-yard penalty, and it pushed them back, and they had to kick a field goal from there. So that's like the only thing I think I could really put on the coaching staff is that miscue with too many men on the field. But I thought Manny Diaz had his team ready to play. I thought they came out swinging. I thought they came out firing. Even in the second half, when you go in 7-7, you're kind of like, well, we should be up 17-0 right now. But I guess it's good that we're tied. Frustrating is obviously the word, because they deserved a much better outcome. They played much better than the outcome they got, I guess I should say.
And while the ground game wasn't there, a lot of that, credit to Georgia Tech for swallowing up Nate Shepard, Anderson Castle. Seriously, had many opportunities from the 1 to punch it in and just couldn't get it to go. Darian Mensah, 373 passing yards after a stretch in which the yardage was going down. He was excellent throwing the ball. Cooper Barkay, 172 yards receiving. That connection is so fun to watch, Kevin, and it's just insane. We don't typically get this level of quarterback play from Duke football. I'm enjoying it, which makes it even more frustrating that you look back and it was a loss on Saturday.
Well, yeah, it kind of goes hand in hand that you have to throw the ball a lot more because you're losing, and the passing yards obviously add up. The 3 of the biggest passing yard games Darian Mensah has had is come in losses. because they've run the ball better in their first 3 ACC wins, and
Yep.
he didn't have to throw it as much, and you're playing complementary football and all this stuff. But yeah, like, I mean, who do you want to put the mistake on the fumble? I mean, that's kind of the question, right? And if you do put it on Darian Mensah, which, I mean, he's the quarterback, he was involved in the play. I can't blame you necessarily if you want to put it on him. That was the big mistake. And, you know, I said it earlier in the week, watching that, and then it gets picked up and run back for a touchdown. A part of you says, all right, well, this game is over. But like, you don't really want to believe it, right? Because it's like, oh, it's still the first quarter. You're still moving the ball. Like, you keep
And the
moving
drive
ball
was so easy. They got down the field so easy.
Yeah. But then once you have the bobbled snap, or the bobbled hold, I guess I should say, on the field goal, and you get nothing, then you're like, all right, you're playing a really good team. You're playing a disciplined team. I don't know how you come back from this, even though Georgia Tech didn't score points after that. Like, they didn't get points directly because of that. But it's and those were big mistakes, but there were other little mistakes throughout the game that the team, they add up to a bunch of little mistakes, add up to a lot of big mistakes. And now, is their ACC championship game dreams over? No, but things become that much more difficult now. I know you go into another bye week. You go down and play Clemson. I guess Cade Klubnik is probably going to be healthy enough to play that game, even though Clemson's season is over with another loss to SMU. Yes, you still have Virginia at home, and you got to go to Carolina and Wake Forest. So, like, it's not the hardest schedule that the ACC could find. But I said it, and I said it after the fact because my preview podcast had already been published. But the Duke Georgia Tech game got 100 times more important after the result came in Friday night. Sure. With Miami losing to Louisville. That ratcheted up the stakes of Duke Georgia Tech tenfold. And I mean, they had their chance to win, man. It should have been 17-0 at halftime at least. And
it wasn't. And that's incredibly frustrating. But we'll go into the bye week. We'll get ready for Clemson coming out of it and see where the Duke team goes from here. And of course, tonight we'll watch Duke basketball take on UCF. You've mentioned the podcast a couple of times. You've got Ball Durham work going on as well. Kevin, how can people follow along and kind of best support you?
Yeah, you can read all my Duke basketball content over at balldurham.com. Really excited for the start of the season. Get some actual content to write about, not just some hypotheticals. So that'll be fun. So you can come read over at balldurham.com. And then the podcast, it's the Believe in Duke Football podcast. We do talk Duke football, but also we talk a ton of Duke basketball. We're going to have our next episode out on Wednesday morning. Right now, we have episodes Sunday, Wednesday, and Friday. So our episode on Wednesday is going to be breaking down this Duke basketball scrimmage against UCF. So you can get it on Apple Podcasts and on Spotify.
All right, Kevin. Good to see you, man. We'll talk again soon, okay?
Thanks, JJ.
All right, that's Kevin Connelly from Ball Durham joining us here on today's episode of Locked On Blue Devils. And that's going to do it for our show here today. Thank you, everyone, for your support. Be on the lookout for Duke basketball a little bit later tonight as they take on UCF in an exhibition, and Bryson Howard's commitment coming your way a little bit later this afternoon. We'll have all of that coverage for you throughout the rest of the week. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Give us a 5-star rating and written review on Apple Podcasts. Follow us on X at @LO_Blue Devils. We're also on Instagram and TikTok as well. As always, go Duke. I'll talk to you again tomorrow. My name is JJ Jackson. Thank you and good day.